Hey guys, it's Miss Salinas. Well, I'm going to go ahead and this is the lesson for the AC method. This is the example we started to go over yesterday, and I'm going to go through this step by step, and I'm also going to do a few other examples on the front of your notes. That way you have a better understanding of how to get this done. So, first things first, we're going to follow our steps. This is the example that we're using. 6x squared plus 7x plus 2 is equal to 0. So our step one, our first step, is to make sure the quadratic is set to 0. So make sure it is set to 0. The reason we want it to be set to 0 is because whenever we have a graph and we have a quadratic, our points here are where y is equal to 0. Also, where x is equal to something, okay? So where y is equal to 0. That's why we have to set it equal to 0, to find our roots. Okay, step 2 is to write our givens. So write givens. Okay, so what are our givens? We have a to be 6, b to be 7, and c to be 2. Okay, so we wrote our givens, awesome. Now 3. We're going to multiply a and c together. So we're multiplying a and c. So what's a? 6 times c, which is 2. What's 6 times 2? It is 12. So good, we multiplied a and c together. Let's move on to our fourth step. Step 4 is to find factors of AC. So find factors of AC. So AC is equal to 12. So we have 12, and let's find the factors of 12. So 1 times 12 gives me 12. 2 times 6 gives me 12. And 3 times 4 gives me 12. So we found our factors, and we can't factor it anymore. So let me go to 5. Step 5. We're going to check to see if the sum or difference equals to our b value. So we wrote down our givens. What is our b? Our b is 7. So let's go ahead and look at 1 and 12. If we add 1 and 12 together, we get 13. If we subtract, we don't get 7. So 1 and 12, we get rid of. What about 2 and 6? So let me add 2, let me add 6. 2 and 6 together, that gives me 8. If I subtract them, that still doesn't get me 7. So 2 and 6 is out of the question. 3 and 4, if I add them together, well, that works. 3 plus 4 gets me 7. So we know we're going to use 3 and 4. Okay, so then our step 6, we're going to go ahead and rewrite our equation using the factors. So rewrite equation. Rewrite equation using factors. So my equation is going to be 6x squared plus 3x plus 4 plus 2, or 4x, sorry, plus 2 is equal to 0. So if I were to add 3x and I were to add 4x together, I would get 7x. So the only thing that has changed is that I separated my 7x into 2 pieces. So my 7th step is to factor by grouping. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take these first 2 terms and group them, and we're going to group these first two terms as well. We're going to factor each one. So we're going to look at this and we're going to say, you know what? What can we pull out of 6x squared and 3x? So I'm going to first look at my coefficients. I have 6 and I have 3. I could pull out a 3 from my 6 and have a 2 left because 3 times 2 gives me 6. I can pull out a 3 from 3x because 3 times 1 gives me 3. So if I pull the 3 out, then I have to worry about my x's now. Do I have an x in each term that I could pull out? I sure do. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to pull out a 3x. So if I pull out a 3x from 6x squared, I'm left with a 2x. And if I pull out a 3x from 3x, I'm left with a 1. So if I was to multiply this together, 3x times 2x, that would give me 6x squared. And if I were to multiply this to here, I would get plus 3x. That's exactly what we have up here. All I did was I factored out a 3x. Okay, so let's worry about this here. We want our in parentheses to be the same. So let's look over here. What can we factor out of 4x and of 2? Well, we can factor out a 2. So if I pull out a 2 from 4x, I'm left with a 2x. And if I pull out a 2 from a 2, I'm left with a 1. Set the whole thing equal to 0. Well, we have 3x times this plus 2x times this. The 2x plus 1 and 2x plus 1 are the same thing. That's awesome. That's what we want to make sure happens. So, our 8th step, so step 8 is to rewrite our equation. Okay? So, we're going to rewrite this. We're going to write it like this. 3x plus 2, open parentheses, times 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. So I'm going to go over here on the side and I'm going to explain to you how that works. So if I have 3 times 6 plus 2 times 6, would it be the same as me saying 3 plus 2 times 6? Well, yes it would be. What's 3 times 6? 18. What's 2 times 6? 12. Well, if you go over here and you distribute, what's 6 times 3? 18. What's 6 times 2? 12. So 18 plus 12 and 18 plus 12 are the same thing. So it's the same concept. We're going to take the 3x and add it to the 2, and we're going to multiply it by this base here. Okay, so this is how we rewrite it. So we're basically done with factoring. We factored out what we needed to do. So we're going to go ahead and now 9 is to solve for x. So we're going to solve for x. I'm left with 3x plus 2 is equal to 0 and 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. So how do I solve for x? How do I get x by itself? I first subtract 2 from both sides, right? The 2's cancel out. I'm left with 3x is equal to a negative 2. And to get 3 times x, to get that 3 out of there, I need to divide by 3 and divide by 3. So my x is equal to negative 2/3. This is one of my solutions. Okay? So now let's solve the other one. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. I'm left with 2x is equal to a negative 1. I need to get that x by itself, so I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2. So my x is equal to a negative 1/2. Here is my other root. So this is basically the AC method. And all these steps may seem like a lot, but when you get a hang of it, it turns out to be pretty simple. So let's go ahead and let's do on your notes, on the front of that page that we started on yesterday, we're going to do number 1, okay? Number 1 is x squared plus 4x plus 3 is equal to 0, okay? So my first step is to make sure it's set to 0. Well, it's set to 0. We got it. It's done. My next step is to write down my given. So what is my A? My A is 1, my B is 4, and my C is 3. So we wrote down our givens. My third step is to do what? Multiply my A and C together. So my A is 1, so I multiply 1 times 3, and that gives me 3. So after I multiply my A and C together, I need to find my factors of AC. So let me find my factors. I'm going to split this up. What times what gives me 3? Well, 1 times 3. And that's about it. Nothing else are factors of 3. So, good, we found our factors. Our fifth step now is to check to see if the sum or difference equals to B. So if I add these together, does that equal to 4? My B? Yeah, it does. 1 plus 3 gives me 4. So will this work? Yes. 1 and 3 will work. So let's go ahead then, and we're going to go ahead and now rewrite our equation using our factors. So we have x squared plus x plus 3x plus 3 is equal to 0. This equals to this. They're the same thing. The only thing is my x's are expanded here. So now we're going to do our grouping. We're going to group these two and we're going to group these two. So what can I pull out of these two here? Well, I have 2 x's here, or x squared, and I have an x here. So I can pull out an x out of both of these. So I'm going to take out an x, and what am I left with? If I pull one x out of here, I'm left with an x. And if I pull an x out of here, I'm left with a positive 1. So what can I pull out of these two? Well, look at my coefficients. My coefficients are 3. I have a 3 here, and then I just have a constant 3, so I can pull out a 3. I can't pull out an x because I don't have an x over here. So let's pull out a 3, and if I pull out a 3, I'm left with x plus 1. So, look, these are equal. That's what we want. That is definitely what we want. So we're going to take this, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to rewrite it. So, just like what I did in the example before, we have x plus 3, and we're multiplying it by x plus 1. We're setting it equal to 0. So, we factored. We're done. Now all we have to do is solve. So we have x plus 3 is equal to 0, and x plus 1 is equal to 0. So, I will subtract 3 from both sides, and I'm left with x is equal to negative 3, and I will subtract 1 from both sides. So my x is equal to a negative 1. So these are my roots. X is equal to negative 3 and x is equal to negative 1. Those are my answers. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is x squared plus 11x plus 24 is equal to 0. So, first off, let me write my givens. My A is 1, my B is 11, my C is 24, right? So, I wrote down my givens. And now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply my A and my C together. So, my A is 1, multiplied by my C, which is 24, that gives me 24. So, after I find my AC, I need to find the factors of AC. So let's find the factors. If I find the factors, I have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 6 times 4, or 4 times 6, vice versa. That works. So we figured that out. Now we need to figure out if we add or subtract these together, am I going to get 11? B is equal to 11? Well, let's find out. So 1 plus 24 gives me 25, or if I subtract, it does not give me 11. So 1 and 24 out of the question. 2 and 12. If I subtract them, I get 10. If I add them, I get 14. That doesn't work. So if I add these together, 8, 9, 10, 11, well, that works. They add up to 11. So I'm going to use 8 and 3. So let's go ahead now. We're going to do our next step, and we're going to rewrite it. We have x squared plus 8x plus 3x plus 24 is equal to 0. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to group. Let's group these two, and let's group these two. So what can I pull out of here? My coefficients are 1 and an 8. I can pull out a 1, but that does nothing for it. But I can pull out an x, right? I can pull out an x from here and an x from here. So let me pull it out. If I pull it out, I have an x. If I pull out an x from here, I'm left with an x. If I pull out an x from here, I'm just left with an 8. Then, let's move on to the next group. My coefficient's 3 and 24. Well, I can definitely pull out a 3. Can I pull out an x? Nope, I can't. So, I have 3, open parentheses. If I pull out a 3 from here, I'm left with an x. And if I pull out a 3 from 24, I'm left with an 8. So, look here. These are the same. That's what we want. So, awesome. So now we're going to go ahead and we are going to rewrite it. So the way we rewrite it is x plus 3, x plus 8 is equal to 0. We're multiplying these together. So one way to double check it to see if that works is to FOIL. So if we were to FOIL, what's x times x? Well, we're going to go ahead and FOIL over here. Okay? What's x times x? We get x squared. Right? So we do first, and then we do the outside. What's x times 8? Well, it's 8x. We're going to do the inside. That's 3x. And the outside is 24. Well, isn't that exactly what we started off with over here? It sure is. So now we know that we are on the right track, and all we have to do is solve. So we have x plus 3 is equal to 0. And x plus 8 is equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. My x is equal to negative 3, and I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So my x is equal to a negative 8. So these are my roots. These are my solutions. X is equal to a negative 3, and x is equal to 8. If you get onto Desmos, you can double check and make sure it works. Let's do number, let's go ahead and do let's do number 4, because we have a negative in there. Let's look at number 4. Number 4 is x squared plus 6x minus 27 is equal to 0. Okay, so we have this. And we need to go ahead and write our givens. So my A is 1, my B is 6, and my C is negative 27. So I have negative 27 for my C. We're going to go ahead now and we're going to multiply our A, which is 1, and our C together, which is negative 27. Whenever we multiply A and C, don't worry about the negative for now. So it'll just be 1 times 27. So we're looking for 27 as we need to find our factors of 27. So 1 and 27 and 3 and 9. I don't think there's anything else that you can multiply to get that. So let's go ahead and see if by adding and subtracting these we get 6. Well, 1 plus 27, not even close.